Well, welcome everyone to the STEM Lab podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Sabrina Walthall, and I am here with four young ladies who, as I talked about in the intro, I went to Oaxaca, Mexico with, and they are all STEM-inists, as we call ourselves, or they are in a STEM field or majoring in a STEM field. And so I'll give this opportunity to the ladies to introduce themselves and let you know what they're majoring in here at Mercer University. I'll start with Emily.
Hi, my name's Emily McCafferty, and I'm going into my sophomore year of a neuroscience major.
Liliana.
Hi, my name is Eslyn Billings, and I'm going into my sophomore year, and I'm double majoring in biology and global health.
Hi, I'm Liliana Jordan. I'm going into my junior year, and I'm majoring in neuroscience.
And Emma.
Hello,
Emma, will
my
you
name is
introduce?
Emma, and I'm a.
Got to speak a little louder, Emma. We're having just a tad bit hard time hearing.
Hello, is this better?
Yes.
All right, my name is Emma. I'm a biochemistry and molecular biology major.
Thank you. So, as you see, all the ladies are majoring in a STEM discipline. And so, one of the things that I wanted to ask them is what sparked your interest in STEM? What made you consider pursuing a degree in science, technology, engineering, or math?
For me, I was exposed to it from an early age, but what really cemented it was high school Latin class, surprisingly, because my teacher would integrate a lot of memory techniques and psychology and neurology of learning. We like the beginning of every week we'd watch video lectures on how to learn and the psychology of it.
That's great. Yeah, I remember Latin. When I was in high school, my friend Ruth was really into it. And so that really, I know, solidified for her. At the time, she wanted to be a brain surgeon. She ended up being a lawyer, but still, it was the same concept that Latin really drove her toward that. So that's good to know. For those parents who want to push their kids toward Latin, that might work. Does anyone else have anything that they would like to add? What may have made them want to major in a STEM discipline?
For me, I've always known I wanted to go into the STEM field. I've said I wanted to be a doctor pretty much my whole life. My mom is in the STEM field, and I spent 4 years
Are
in
you
high
able to
school
hear me?
doing engineering, but I decided to major in biology instead because I knew I wanted to go to medical school.
Gotcha. Thank you. Emma, were you about to answer?
No, I just can't hear. I can hear you and Emily, but I can't hear anyone else.
Oh, that I am not sure about. Uh, you might want to, and I can edit this part out. You might want to come out and come back in
Okay.
because that might help.
Yes. Who else is here? Because I can only see you and Emily.
Can you? Does the app allow you to swipe? Because everyone is here.
Oh, yeah. I can't. No. It just says you and two others under people too. Let me leave and try coming back. I'm on
Okay.
really bad Wi-Fi right now too.
Okay, that'll work. So, hey, this is what editing is all about. And so I'll just cut that part out when I'm doing my editing part. Happens, just know. All right, so going back to the question because we are recording now. All right, so I'll ask this. So, do you have any exposure to STEM in a program of any sort in high school that kind of got you on the pathway or really thinking about this is something that I really might want to do. I think this might be the major for me.
For me in high school, I participated in a program hosted by Emory that was for women in the STEM field. So it covered engineering and then orthopedic surgery, like around that area. And I think it was really eye opening for me. So that kind of, I guess, was the catalyst for my drive to pursue a STEM
Gotcha.
major.
Okay, that's great. And it's good to hear that Emory was offering a program for specifically for young women to allow them to have uh, a look into what STEM would be like. Did you find that having a gender specific program um, was better for you in a sense, or just
Yeah, I
helped you
think.
understand?
Um, yeah, I think. Well, one, it made me feel like more comfortable, like seeing other
Mhm.
passionate women. Like, so I think that relatability was kind of a good environment to be around. And then even all of the doctors and everyone there were also all female. So it just felt good to be around people, like minded people, I would say.
Great. Yes, I know. I work with a program here in Macon called Real Impact a couple of years ago, and that was the goal. There was to make sure that what I called a safe space for young girls to thrive in that like STEM. Because sometimes if you like science in school, you can get bullied for it just because people are like, "What? That's weird." So good to know. And I think, Emily, you were saying at one time that your chemistry class was really a big factor in you wanting to go into STEM.
Uh, it cemented it because we all did
Gotcha.
a there is a very small chemistry class because no one else wanted to really elect to take more chemistry, but it's a lifesaver for me. Um,
Right.
and we got to pick out whatever we wanted that had to do with chemistry and research on it. And I researched environmental, like, effects of copper mining in this one area in Tennessee. It's called uh, Copper Basin, and we got to make a research paper about it and present it to a
Mm-hmm.
board of actual scientists. So it's good exposure.
Good. Well, Emma, do you have any internships or programs that you were a part of as a high school student that kind of sparked your interest towards STEM?
Um, yeah, can you hear me now?
I can. You are still low, but that's okay.
Um, okay, I'm gonna try this and hope it works. But yeah, for me, I think a lot of the healthcare electives that I got to take in high school, like nursing and emergency medicine electives,
Mm-hmm.
really helped me realize that I want to go into medicine as a career and that I can't see myself really doing anything else. Um, Other than that, as for programs, the Georgia Governor's Honors Program was a wonderful sort of catalyst for me to um, get into a lab and do research in that manner.
So you had research experience, lab research experience in high school.
So I for our senior sort of like a mini senior thesis for our STEM magnet program,
Okay.
we did an internship and we had to do a quantitative or qualitative research project. So I did a semester long research project in veterinary medicine and we did a write up that was, for me, it was about 70 pages of research and sort of analysis, and then we presented it to a board. So
Good.
similar to what Emily did, I believe.
Okay. Well, I am glad to hear that. So, for all of my parents that are listening to the podcast, you see now that there are several different avenues that your young lady and your family could do. Go to a summer program, as Liliana has said. Emma was a part of a STEM magnet school. Emily found it in her chemistry class. And so, there are ways within the school, especially if it is. A school that has a lot of activity going on that your young lady can find her way is so, and it doesn't always have to be one way. And I think that's what this is showing, just hearing the young ladies talk about their pathway. And so there are many pathways to get into STEM, and then it's about how do you stay in STEM once you're there. So as we talk about a move into there, now that we know how all of you kind of got your interest, you're now here at Mercer. We have um, sophomores and junior. And so we talked about how, that is giving us a breadth of looking into everything. When we talk about the scope of college, moving from freshman to your senior year. And so at this juncture, you all decided that, hey, study abroad is something that I want to do. And so we all went on a journey ourselves to Oaxaca, Mexico this past summer. And so I wanted to know if you could share a bit about your experience participating in this experiential learning program. Um, I guess my first question is what motivated you to actually choose this particular program? And anybody can start us off.
I chose this program because it was I was looking at all of the study abroad options, and it was the one that kind of pertained mostly to what I wanted to do. Um, so I thought it was okay. Yeah, it pertained to mostly what I wanted to do. It focused on healthcare, so that's why I chose it, because a lot of the other trips just didn't really go with my major or my pathway. So once I like read over the program and saw that we'd be like shadowing doctors, and I get to experience, not only just get to experience things in the medical field, but also get to see how healthcare works in another country. That's what solidified the decision for me.
Thank you, Keslin. Anyone else wants to tell their story into the foray of study abroad? Well, I know for me in particular, it was about making sure that I teach a lot of pre nursing, pre pharmacy students. And so it was really me when I designed it. My thought was to give these students a chance to have that experience because my students in my college are working adults. And so they don't always have the opportunities that traditional students do to take study abroad. So I thought, okay, a week in a different country, being able to see how healthcare works in that country would be an experience that would definitely look good on resumes and would help them, have a leg up, is what I call it, or, at least be noticed as they are applying to nursing school or pharmacy school. And so that was the initial thought behind me um, creating the study abroad. Well, since we have finished or gone on the study abroad, we completed that a couple of weeks ago. Let me ask this: how did the cultural immersion in Oaxaca perhaps enhance your understanding or appreciation of local traditions, or I guess healthcare in Mexico? Hmm. Oh, Yeah. Thank you, Liliana. That definitely was something I hadn't even thought about that they didn't have urgent care. Like it didn't even cross my mind. But you're right. Like in the span of my home, I know there are three. It's like how urgent is care around here? Like why do we need so many? But they're everywhere. So yeah, that's definitely something that I hadn't seen. Did anyone else
For
have anything to add to that?
for me, the hospital we went to
For me, the hospital we went to.
uh, was sorry, not used to the echo. uh, but I found it interesting how they rotated the kids from. I would see some kids in occupational therapy like the first day, and then a few days, and then the next day I saw them at mechanical therapy. So it seemed like they did a rotation, and kids would go from the water therapy to the mechanical therapy. And I thought that was really interesting how they seemed to separate the um, like occupational therapy from mechanical therapy. Usually in the U.S., it seems like they would all be put together, but uh, it was
That's
different.
true.
It also reminds me of. I know that I'm not going to get too far into it, but I know some people who have gone over to Mexico for chemotherapy. They do have similar resources to the United States for that, but they do it differently. I believe so. This
Hmm.
was 13-ish years ago, and they did
Okay,
it more frequently but less intense. So I suppose that in the
I got
healthcare
it.
system in Mexico, they do things sequentially differently.
I get you. So you're saying lower dosage, but more times. So the probably an equal amount of treatment is given. It's just given in lower dosage. It's probably helps the system too. So that may be a good thing. But
It
thanks for
really
sharing
helped
that.
people, the people I knew.
Okay.
So
So I do want to know in what ways did the experiential learning probably contribute to any of your personal or academic growth? Do you think that it did at all? Because we talked about experiential learning as being a part of the experience. Do you feel like it uh, helped you personally grow, or do you think it's gonna be a step in your academic growth at all?
Um, I think the experience helped me because it introduced me to a lot of things that I had never heard of before. Like Emily was saying about how they separate like the different therapies. Like I, before I went to before I went to the clinic or the hospitals we went to, I hadn't heard of like occupational therapy, and shadowing there was interesting because it was just interesting to see the way that they work with kids and like the different ways that they worked with them to be able to give them a better quality of life. And I thought that was interesting. I also learned a lot in the clinic we went to where he was showing us how blood types work, and he was just showing us how they like test the bacteria and things like that. So I just gained a lot of knowledge that I didn't know before I went there, which was really cool.
That's good. And that was, I'm glad you said that. One of the outcomes was just that we would learn something, if it's not anything, but that there is a difference and we could see that difference. And I think that's important because when we in the medical field, as you all hopefully will be, when you have patients from a different culture, you can kind of now understand why things might be overwhelming to them when they step into a hospital in America and all of the things that we have going on, and they have to try and navigate that. So, one of the questions that I did have, as we are talking about navigating things, as the challenges that we might have faced while we're in Oaxaca. And I know what my challenge was, definitely, but I wanted to know from you what were some of the challenges that you encountered in your time in Oaxaca, and how did you navigate those or overcome them? Yeah. Oh my God. Yes. Yeah. No, I get it. Believe me, because I was heavy dependent on taxes in the beginning. And then the day I walked to you all, I was like, oh my God, they're like round the corner. Like, why have I been taking a taxi? Because it's round the corner. But also, and I told my kids when I came back, I was like, every country I visited, they wake up walking, and only in America do we wake up and get in a car and go somewhere. And I was like, I just have to prioritize movement a lot more than I have, because other countries, that's what they do. Like, whenever I'm in Europe, you get up and the first thing you do is head out and walk wherever you're going. And so that was really, like you said, to see that also in Mexico, I was like, we have it backwards. Like, but you're right. We're in the South. Everything is so far apart. Like, who's gonna walk to the grocery store? But if we could. Well, I have a question for you, Emma, specifically because I knew you were better at Spanish than the rest of us, and that was our challenge most of the time. I know that was mine, and it wasn't until you all I saw using Google Translate that I was like, maybe I should download that. But I wanted to ask for a person who could really speak Spanish. What challenge did you face?
Yeah, so is this better, by the way, the audio quality?
Yeah.
Okay, wonderful. I think my headphones are broken. I think I am someone who really likes to always be like up and doing things. So for me, I think the most difficult part about any trip in general is just um, having an itinerary to follow and not being able to like run around and do everything. And the heat in Oaxaca really got to me when we had our free time around like
Yeah.
12 p.m. and noon. Yeah, I was like, I can do all of this stuff in this free time. I didn't do any of it because it was so hot.
It was.
Yeah, so I think that was really frustrating for me. But I think it also gave me time to like relax and actually process everything we did and everything we learned from the clinicals in the morning and things like that. So I think it worked out really nicely. It just goes against sort of my habits, and with Oaxacan culture in general, I think they're a lot more slower paced and relaxed
Yes.
than America is.
Right. No, and that's something I picked up too, because Dr. Anna kept saying to me, no worries, it will be all right. And I was like, wait a minute, what do you mean? I must worry. Like, that's a part of our culture. But one of the things I said to my kids when I got back, I was like, that Oaxaca sun hit different. Like it was hot, and we're used. We're from the south, so we're used to hot heat and humidity. So I was like, I don't know what they had. It was a breeze, but I still felt like the sun was directly on me. Like, hey, Serena. And so when you say that, I really understand. And Walter told me that, and so I was just like, did listen. But hey, that was some of the things. Well, thank you. I'm glad to know that because I know, like I said. So, does anyone else have anything that they found challenging aside of the language?
No, I think I agree like a little bit of what everybody else is saying. Just like things I wasn't necessarily used to, like the not having air conditioning or like having cold showers in the heat. I know when I got home, I told my family that the Oaxacan sun was not the same as the sun that we had at home, and
Yes,
I thought it was interesting. But it was hot like where we were staying, but when I would check the weather, it doesn't cool down until like 2 a.m. Whereas here it'll get cool at around like 8 when the sun goes down. So I
right.
found that like interesting. Also like the loud noises. I'm not used to like the
Oh
loud
my
noises all the
God.
time. And I'd be like
Yes.
taking a nap and then there's like a parade going down the street or fireworks going off, and I just thought that was interesting.
That was, I remember my first night. I was like, is there is there a gun battle? Or is the Civil War happening like up the street? And I don't know it. So I go to the front desk, and she said, "Oh, it's just a party." Oh, party with all this noise? Like she's like, it's fireworks. What? How many do they need? What are we announcing? She said it could be anything: a birthday, a baptismal, anything. What? Okay. So yes, that was totally different for me. And then they would do it early in the morning. I heard it on Sunday morning. I was like, "Do we do fireworks for church? Like, what is going on, people?" Very interesting. Very interesting. All right. So now that we're kind of into our Oaxaca journey, and everything that we did there. Um, I do have this question. Uh, how do you see the experience in Oaxaca influencing your future academic or professional pursuits? Um, has it inspired any goals or aspirations? I'll leave it at that.
Me, for the longest time, I said I wanted to be a pediatrician, but I moved away from that and I was looking into other fields because I know the medical field is so broad. But shadowing and teletone, it kind of made me rethink about working with children because I just I just think it would be a good pathway to be able to help children have a better quality of life so that they can just have a childhood where they can be happy and healthy. So I'm thinking about working with children again, but I guess we'll see.
Got you. That's great. I know being there, I think I was in shock for the first day or two. I just didn't in my head think about that many kids being in one area uh, having disabilities. I don't know. I don't know. And I guess because in America, I don't work in a clinic where I can see it all the time. So it's not always in my face. But as I sat there, I was like, this is rough because they're kids, and you have just your heart goes out to them and the parents. But what I did like about the crit was that their mission was to do the whole family. And so it was not only caring for the kids, but it was also um, the mental health of the family who has to care for this kid. And I was like, man, that's so important. Oh my God. You know, does everybody, can we get this model and take it everywhere? Because, parents who have children with disabilities definitely need care also. And so I just thought that was a great model system for them to be using. So yeah, being there was quite a bit. So does anyone else have anything to add um, to that? That's so true. That's so true. Since we you brought up the experience and I hadn't even thought about that. So talk a bit, if someone would, about the experience of talking with the students, because I, of course, was not in your conversations. What were the conversations usually surrounding? Were you all just getting to know each other and what you do, or was there a script of some sort that you went through? Oh, no, that's great. So, Emma, I'll come to you again, just because you were to me the person in the group who had the best handle on the Spanish language. So when you were conversating with students, did you go deeper into conversation because you understood, or was it also just surface level getting to know?
Um, I think it was a bit of both. So we would talk about like food, drinks that they like that were traditional to Oaxaca. We talk about global shows and things that we both knew of and that we had in common. But we also talked about like family. He told me, oh, my family, my sister is studying abroad and I want to study abroad too. So we talked about the study abroad experience, and we were switching between Spanish and English, and in my opinion, his English was better than my Spanish.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, but we talked about work. We talked about one of the guys I talked to was mentioning how in a past conversation someone was discussing politics with him, and he asked me kind of what I thought about the differences in conditions between Mexico and America, and it really made me reflect on my privileges because he's like, we have the privilege of coming here on this study abroad trip when a lot of people in Mexico find it really hard to travel to America, even if they want to travel here for a job or something like that. It's the barrier for them is much higher than it is for us.
Wow. Well, thank you for that. That's a perspective I didn't really think about, that we can get to Mexico easily and we have the resources to do so, but they don't always have the same resources to come and visit in America or come to move to America. So, well, hey. Well, it's good to also see that the English is good as well, as you being able to work on your Spanish. I know the one conversation I had, I'm sure she was ready to go because she was like, she doesn't understand nothing. Like, why are we here? And so that's okay. All right, ladies. Well, I am not going to continue to hold us very long. As I said, we are moving into our third segment, and that is the wisdom, right? And so I know that all of you, again, have been in STEM for some time, as you talked about. You've had some programs in high school, and now you're in college and you are majoring in STEM. And so I guess one of the first things I want to know from you is if there have been any specific challenges or obstacles you have encountered as a woman pursuing a STEM major, and how have you um, used those experiences to help with your growth and development. Everybody's like, who should start? Or if there are no challenges, then that means we progressed.
Um, for me, I think the challenges aren't as much about being a woman in STEM as someone who is, by Mercer's definition, a first generation, and I the only one in my family interested in healthcare. So there's not really any connections. Like I don't know any doctors or anything like that. So just getting started and knowing what to do and when to do it, like what jobs should I take, what classes do I need to take,
Yeah.
who can I go to for this question, what professors do I need to reach out to for research. Everything was unknown and a bit overwhelming. But I think the wonderful thing about being a woman in STEM is that there are so many people with the same challenges, and I've been able to find just wonderful mentors and classmates to help me through it, to tell me, hey, this is the book you need to study for the MCAT, this is the job you should apply for, or this is a teacher who would be willing to show you the ropes for research. And I think that's a really wonderful part about the culture of being um, in STEM.
No, you bring up such a great point, Emma, especially when you talk about um, not knowing the unknown, like being the first person in the family to do this. And so you're just not sure of how the pathway looks or should look and how to navigate it. As an undergraduate at Emory, we had a program. And because I'm at Mercer, I'm like, it's not the Office of Minority Success. That was not the name of it, but that's Mercer's program. But we did have a program, and so that's where basically, like you said, I met peers, my support team, that would help me navigate and say, hey, you want to take this teacher, you want to make sure that you're really studying for this class because they're no joke. So you have to put in the time with this one, whereas this one would be a lighter one. And it's really when I learned how to balance a schedule, to take heavy classes and light ones, and not everything so heavy, so that I'm just worn out from the mental gymnastics I was going to have to do. So that's really great to see and hear. So that's a great point that was made. Emily, you had something?
I was just uh, it's late for me. I know how to say it.
I got you. But
I just
no, I
sometimes I
get
get into
it.
that. It's like
So,
I'm embarrassed. I apologize. That's what editing's for.
no,
Sorry.
man. Yeah, it is, and it is no problem at all. So, ladies, is there any other challenges that you may have faced as a woman in STEM that you want to share with our listeners? Exactly, as a black woman in the STEM field. And so having gone through all of those levels, you are definitely correct. It's and I think what you touched on and Emma are touching on, uh, it's all about community and creating that community for yourself because it's not always there. And so when you find it, it is very helpful, most definitely, but it's also very needed because STEM itself is a difficult field to be in. And then when you have, as you say, you know, already stereotypes about different people being in STEM, then you have to fight those or combat those as well. So I could see how um, that can be a challenge within a challenge. Let me just say that. All right. And so as we wrap up here, there's the question that I like to ask everyone. And if you could take a moment and um, just think about it and answer it. I ask all of my guests if you could travel back, not in your long life, but your short life, and speak to yourself at any age um, about persisting in STEM, what would you tell her? And I guess I'll start just to kick it off as y'all think. I always say I will tell the young Sabrina it's okay to like science. It's okay to be the person who wants to stay in the lab because you found it interesting and you had a couple of more questions because you were really wanting to know how this worked. And it's okay to like science. Like, don't be afraid to be that person. And it took me a long time to be like, huh, I'm different. I like this stuff, and so I'm gonna stick with it. And so, if I could go back and tell myself anything, it would be that. So then I would have got on the path to my career sooner than I did. Yes, building character.
For me, I tell my younger self, even just my last semester self, um, it's okay to not have everything figured out in the moment. It's okay to change your mind. The medical field is so broad and there's so many things that you can do. And like Liliana said, it's a journey. And I still have time to figure out what I want to be. So I didn't need to know exactly when I was younger. And it's a journey. And I guess I'll know once I get to where I need to be.
You will. That's great. All right, Emily, Emma, either one of you could go.
I would say don't be afraid. I know that that's definitely cliche, but uh, don't be afraid of grades. Don't let that intimidate you because oftentimes, your worst grades are what you learn from and you spring back. So I'd also say make mistakes early on. I
Mm,
feel that, again, mistakes stick with you better and you learn from those. The
true.
more you learn, the more mistakes you learn, the better it is. And the earlier you make them, or the earlier you ask questions, the easier it is to rebound from it. And that results in less fear and other things. Third thing I'd tell myself is that uh, this is kind of a more, I guess, uh, negative one, but it still was very. Sometimes, you can't always uh, take medicine with sugar, and
Uh,
sugarcoat it. You're going to be more frustrated than scared. And I feel that frustration isn't as unknown. You know what's causing it, and it's easier to deal with for me personally. So that's
gotcha.
more of a personal one. And I told it to myself to not sugarcoat it.
Gotcha.
So
Thank you, Emily. That works. And Emma, what would be your words of
What would
wisdom
be
to
your
your younger
words of
self?
wisdom to your younger self?
Um, I think medicine and any STEM field, there's so much self doubt and questioning whether you're on the right path, because whether you're going for a MD or a PhD or any kind of graduate admissions or anything like that, there's so much competition, and there's often a lot of conflict um, with what you should be doing with your time and whether this sort of journey is worthwhile. And to me, I would say don't doubt yourself and don't look back. Just keep walking down this path because it's what feels right. You know it feels right. And like, I just got off a 12-hour shift. I see people in a lot of pain. I see people die. And it makes me wonder if this is really what I want to be doing, if it's really worthwhile. And I think back to myself 2 years ago, and this is where I would have wanted myself to be. This is what would have been my dream. So I try to think that when you're in a STEM field, you're often thinking about the next opportunity, the next job, the next chapter of your life. You don't really slow down and take the time to live in the one you are in right now.
Right.
So I think being present and being grateful for what you have is so important to get through this very long journey that all of us have ahead of us as pre-meds.
Those are definitely words of wisdom to
Those are definitely
end
words of
on
wisdom
because
to
you are
end
definitely
on
right. It is a
because you
long
are
journey
definitely right.
and it takes perseverance and there are the ups and downs. And this is someone speaking from experience. Um, but as you said, you are years ago would have wanted to be here in the place that you are now. And um, same here with me. I envisioned this part, like as I was working in the lab, I was envisioning being a professor, and then going through the ranks. And so here I am at that level, and I'm just like, I felt like ran a marathon, and that's how most of you will feel once you get to the end point. You're like, wait a minute, it's done. And as your still mind begins to work, you'll start thinking about what's next because that's exactly how I did. But um, I think what we're giving our listeners here is that um, broad span look at how STEM is. It's a marathon race with hills and valleys, and it takes endurance to get through. But you will look back and be like, I'm glad I did it, or I'm glad I made it through that. And as Kelslin told us, you're learning as you go along. And as you learn, things will change and you will move in different directions, probably in the same pipeline of STEM, just in a different offshoot. So, you ladies have offered some great wisdom tonight. And I thank you so much for it. Thank you for a wonderful study abroad experience in Oaxaca for me. Taking you all because it was experiential just watching you all um, grow before my eyes and be able to really immerse yourself into the culture and take that on and do the work at the crit every day. As they said, when you left, can you stay? And I think that said a lot of just about your work ethic and how you all took it all seriously. And so I'm really thankful to have been able to curate a trip like that for you all. So, ladies, I will, I'm quite sure Emily is happy, call this the end of the event. I thank you so much for joining me on the STEM Lab podcast, and for all of our listeners. Um, we thank you for joining us. And as always, if you have any questions, you can always email us at stemlabpodcast@gmail.com. Or you can find us on social media on IG at STEM Lab, the STEM Lab, the STEM Lab. Or you can also find us on Facebook at STEM Lab Podcast. Until we meet next time, bye.
Bye.
Bye.